programming. This is an advanced technique in programming. Programming did not start this way. It started very simple, and maybe let me give you a brief history. In the 60s, computers were slow and programs were very small, maybe in hundreds and maybe 300, so they were very small. And managing programs, smaller programs, is very easy. So at that time, programmers were not having any problem if there were errors. It was easy for them to spot these errors, and if they want to, for example, extend the program, so they can go to the code and extend the program. And probably at that time, one person can work for programming. By the time the power of computers increased, I mean, CPUs become faster and space of memory has increased. So everything has increased. Accordingly, programming techniques have also increased. I mean, complexity, sorry. Programming complexity has also increased. يعني تعقيدات صارت في البرمجة. So what they were doing for a smaller program maybe does not work because the programs now become larger. People at that time were dealing with 100 lines. But by the time programs become like, for example, 10,000 lines, 500,000 lines. So managing this program is not easy, especially when you get errors. So to find where is the error, then you have to dig into this number of lines to find the error. So programmers said, or scientists say, we have to put some rules. Now we need to follow these rules so to minimize programmers make errors. It's like, you know, traffic rules. قوانين المرور. Why we need traffic rules? Because if we don't have traffic rules, we will have, people may make mistakes and we will have accidents. So we have rules so that everybody can follow these rules so that we don't, so minimize number of accidents. And programming is the same. When your program becomes big, then we need rules for programmers so programmers don't make mistakes. They say instead of writing your whole program in file, you divide your program into modules. Each part of this module solves a certain part of the program. It's like you have a company and you cannot run the company by yourself. So for large companies, they have departments. So each department is independent of itself. If there is a problem, they know where to go in which department to solve this problem. And programming is the same at that time. So the program was divided into modules, small parts. Each part solves a certain part of the problem, and there is a main program that controls all of these modules. It's like the manager. It controls everything. If there is a problem, let's say errors, then they know from where this error is coming, so they go to the module and try to solve the problem in that module rather than going to the whole program. The method that they were using at that time, it was called procedural programming. Procedural, it means you write your program into procedures. And again, by the time, programmers grow bigger and bigger and bigger, and they became in millions. So they said still that technique cannot work anymore. So we have to find a new ways of programming so that we reduce also number of errors, reduce the maintenance of the program in terms of design. So they came up with what's called object-oriented programming. Now, when you have an application in your mobile, and all of a sudden you say that there is an update, you know that this update in all the programs do not exist. In the procedural programming do not exist. If you want to update your program, then you have to rewrite your program from scratch. So you have to go to your program and modify it, compile it again, and then upload it to Apple Store or Google Play for users to download it. But if the program supports extending, so you don't download the whole program, you just download the part that needs to be modified. So this is why updating does not take time for download. But if you download the whole application, you download a big amount of the bytes. So object-oriented is a style of a programming to minimize making errors for programmers. And this is now the latest way of designing a program. It is called object-oriented programming, and Java is one of them. So how this style looks like? It says you look at the program as if it consists of objects. Before, there were modules, smaller programs. Objects are also smaller programs. For example, you look at your problem that it consists of objects. For example, people, trees, cars, cities, and you know that every these of objects work independently. يشتغلون مستقلين. Each person knows where to go, where to walk, so knows exactly how to control himself or herself. Trees as well, cars, and etc. And objects also can perform actions. For a person, can speak, okay, can see, okay, can make actions, and etc. So this will affect themselves only, but does not affect others. Now, for a program to work in object-oriented, it consists of objects. These objects work independently, يشتغلون كل واحد بروحه, but they need to communicate. So it is a programming, it's a program as a collection, but they need to communicate, interact by means of actions. So if we have an object of two people, of course, we will talk about them in programming. You create an object. We will show you in Java how to do this. You create another object for another person, and then for your program to work, they need to connect. So one sends a message to the other, and the other one sends a message to the other. Object-oriented treats a program as a collection of objects. Procedural programming, it treats the program as a collection of modules, functions, procedures. But here it treats them as objects, and each object, or they interact by means of actions. Sometimes if I go into some terminologies, it is difficult for you to grasp. يعني لما أتطرق إلى هاي المواضيع يمكن شوي أحيانا تكون متقدمة. So all what you need to know at this stage, some terminologies, بعض المصطلحات. Probably you don't know how to do it in programming, but once we learn Java language and how it looks like, and then I will try to remind you of those things. Do you remember we said encapsulation? Now here we have encapsulation. Do you remember polymorphism, and etc.? So objects are called, objects appropriately are called objects, actions are called methods. So when you write a program, as I said, your program consists of objects, and these objects have actions, or they have actions, so these actions are called methods. When we have two objects, if they are the same kind, then they have the same type. So if I have objects of people, so if I have two objects of two people, they should share the same attribute. So we say they have the same type and they belong to the same class. You know that for classes, species are divided into classes. There are humans, there are animals, there are insects, there are plants. So these are classes, and each class has objects inside. For a human, there are plenty of objects. For animals, there are plenty of objects, and etc. And if I go again over these terminologies, maybe it will be an advance, but here I need to say that for objects within same class, they must have common set of methods, and we said methods are actions. Like a human now, when we say that Ahmed and Ali are humans, so it means their behavior should be similar. So they have common set of methods. Both can see, both can eat, both can talk, and etc. But each object can have its own data values. So every object should hold its data and should not be affected by other data. So if you own a house, then the house is the data, then you are the owner of this house. So others should not interfere with your house. And also others have houses. You cannot interfere with other houses. This is how we look conceptually, مفهوميا, how we look at objects and methods. These are the three terms that you will see a lot in object-oriented. But these are techniques, by the way. And if you know Java, I can tell you how we can do these techniques. But now You are just learning the Java programming language. I cannot tell you in detail how you can see it in Java for each of these techniques. But these techniques or concepts, I need you just to remember their what they do or their definitions. When we say encapsulation, it means data hiding. How you can hide data of each object from others. When we say polymorphism, it means a program can have different shapes. And when we say inheritance, it means a program is capable to be extended. This is when we say that there is an update to a program. In fact, the update is done by this technique. If the programming language you are using for writing your program does not support inheritance, then for your update, you have to uninstall the program and install the new updated program. But if it has inheritance, there is no need to uninstall your program. Simply download the updated part of the program and automatically the program will be updated.